All In Sports Network. We love sports.
Welcome into All In Aggies. It is Friday, September 27th. Ben Peck here, part of the All In Sports Media Network and the Rogue Sports Media Network. Here with our very first guest ever on the show, Courtney Mims of Pig Trail Nation, joins us from Northwest Arkansas. Courtney, how we doing?
I'm your first ever guest.
First ever. This is breaking barriers.
I am honored, honestly. You didn't tell me I was your first ever guest. That is awesome. And I'm so honored to be here today and chat with you about this matchup this week because, man, I know a lot of people are excited about this one.
I am too. It's, it's one I always enjoy it. And actually, that was kind of, before we get too deep into football, I just wanted to get your thoughts on like the whole AT&T Stadium, neutral site setting. I've been of the opinion from what I've been able to see, I think it's probably better for A&M fans, because, being in Texas and more Texas high school football players, I always talk about how important that venue is for them as like the ultimate destination. And then for Arkansas, not that going to Jerry World isn't cool, see your guy Jerry Jones, but that, I know there's the game in Little Rock. And from what I've seen, there's discussion that, if you have that game and this as a home game, kind of takes away two home games. So maybe Arkansas a little more okay with this going back to home and home. But how do you think Hogs fans are think back at this time? I know the series hasn't necessarily gone great, but that aside.
Yeah, I was gonna joke with you. Yeah, you always like this game because you guys always seem to win.
Right, that helps.
There's a reason why A&M fans like this game in this series because it always goes in favor. It feels like heavily favored for you guys. But all jokes aside, seriously, I see both sides of the argument for AT&T Stadium, and I see the side of the argument for let's do a home and home, right? Because the reason for that is we're now in week 5? Am I right on that?
Yep, week 5.
Week 5, and how many home games, official home games in Fayetteville has Arkansas had? How many? One game. One game.
Where'd they play did they do the UAB game in Little Rock?
The UAB was the UAB game was in Fayetteville. The UAB game to start off the season was in Little Rock.
I gotcha.
I get that Little Rock is technically considered a home game for Arkansas. It's not. It's a neutral. I understand that it's a home game, but it's still
especially when you're playing another Arkansas team.
Exactly. So, I mean, and a team that had fans there, not a lot, but they had fans there, right?
Right.
So it technically wasn't, it's not a home game. It's not a traditional true home game. And then this AT&T game, I know that somebody is designated as the home team and the fans are always pretty split. Like, I love that when you go to that stadium, you see half Aggies and half Hog fans. And it's like, okay, this is really cool, right? I mean, even play it in college football 25, you don't have any stadium polls for either team because it's so split, right? So you full kind of playing field, right? It really is a neutral site game because you have half the fans there. And some people may disagree with me there, but I always go and I always see half and half. I'm like, man, that's awesome. So I get the draw of going there and playing in an NFL stadium because it is cool, right? At the end of the day,
for sure.
Florida, Georgia does their game at Jacksonville Stadium every single year. That's a neutral site game, right? And it's so much fun. The largest cocktail party in the world, if I can still say that for them. They don't call it that, but it is for a reason. And it's so much fun. So I do get the appeal of doing that. Oops, sorry, my dog.
No, you're okay. It's got some thoughts.
Yeah, he's angry about AT&T Stadium. I'll tell you that. He doesn't want him to be there. He likes being at home for sure. But what I was saying is I can see the appeal to it, especially when you talk about those recruits, right? The Texas area is such a hotbed for Arkansas's recruiting. I know it is for A&M's recruiting as well. And so you love to see it when it's for recruits and those guys. Hey, Leo, he's freaking out over a squirrel right now. So I apologize.
No, you're fine.
Guys, I apologize. Dog interruptions in my house right now. But I see the appeal of the game. I really do. But when you talk about Arkansas and why Hog fans want it to be hey, you come to Arkansas, we go to Texas A&M. Gosh, I haven't even been to College Station in my life. And I really Kyle Field. Like I've heard the atmosphere there is awesome. And so I really do want to experience that. I know Hog fans do as well, because there are some young ones that don't even know what that's like. Like there are some college kids that are like, yeah, we've grown up only knowing the AT&T Stadium neutral site game. And I'm like, that's weird, right? That's weird. And it meant something when this was started, and Arkansas was in the SEC and Texas A&M was still in the Southwest Conference. So it was kind of that fun, like clash up, you know, and then Texas A&M's in the SEC. And then you're like, okay, well, this didn't really have the same appeal. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So, I think there's a lot of good reasons for it staying there, but I really do. I'm more on the side of thank goodness it's switching to a home and home.
I think maybe if we were to keep it, I wouldn't mind if it was like a 3-year rotation kind of thing. If you do home,
Okay. Yeah.
home, and neutral, like every now and
Yeah.
then, I don't mind it. But yeah, as like forever, I could go either way on it. But I do think an interesting dynamic with how it plays out is it gives either team the ability, like it is fairly split, but I do feel like if your team is rolling and you have momentum, it does start to feel like almost a home game for your guys, because the other crowd is just sitting on their hands. And then you guys, you know, whether it be Arkansas or A&M, whoever your team is, y'all can get it rolling and maybe start to feel. But then just as quickly, if you make a blunder, it can flip around the other way. So I think that's kind of made it, in my opinion, sort of like these big momentum swings kind of carry not just the momentum of the actual game, but almost they can switch the home crowd, quote unquote, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think it's those momentum swings that has gone in favor of the Aggies, but something weird always happens in AT&T.
Super weird.
Always weird. Like I remember, I don't believe it was last year, maybe it was last year or the year before, and my years may be mixed up, when Cam Little hit that field goal right on top of, like, how many times does that happen? How many times does that happen? People were like, I've been in this sport all my life and I've never seen that happen.
Never. No,
Like,
I know. That's crazy.
It's just crazy. And this is a guy that's now kicking for the Jaguars. And I mean, just so good at his craft. And he thinks about that moment all the time of like, how did I? It's something kind of weird juju in that stadium when it comes to Arkansas. I don't know how to explain it. I really don't, because we've even talked to like Jerry Jones about it. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
sorry,
saw a guy, but I don't know, you know, so it's just weird. But I do love the atmosphere there. I think it's fun. You're never going to see a stadium that's really half and half like that. If you do, you know, a game in Fayetteville and a game in College Station. So I see both sides, but I like your idea of like doing maybe a 3rd-year neutral site kind of thing.
Or like once every 5 years, something. I would be okay with that. Man, I remember that kick. I was actually shooting that for us kind of at an angle. And so the ball was in the lights for me. And so I kind of got the sense that he missed it, but I didn't realize how dramatic it was. It was kind of crazy. I was like, why is everyone freaking out? I was like, it's just a missed kick. But then I was like, I saw it later, like, oh my goodness, that was wild. Let's go hog wild and talk about this Arkansas team. You know what's interesting is, I don't know if we talked about this the other day. I feel like these two teams' seasons kind of mirror each other in the sense that you have a win where you take care of business against an FCS team. I would compare the Oklahoma State game on the road in double overtime to the A&M game at home against Notre Dame, which, you know, I know they had the letdown against Northern Illinois, but that defense was still pretty decent in that game, and maybe they're back on track.
They're clicking. They're
and then you had like a game for A&M Bowling Green, for Arkansas UAB, where a little messy at times against a Group of 5 team, and then you go on the road against an SEC team that's got some searching in the wilderness to do, but you come out with the win. You know, Florida for the Aggies and Auburn for Arkansas. And now, like, you go into this game, I know Texas A&M is ranked, but barely. But, like, I feel like it's one where, as you know, watching the Aggies, you're like, okay, 3-1, but, like, there's been some problems. Like, Okay, but you win this game 4-1, you start to turn the corner, and I imagine maybe the same for Arkansas, where maybe it wouldn't be the most pretty 4-1 in the world, but you could start to talk yourself into like, hey, if we could get this win, this things could get a little interesting. Like, let's ride and see how this goes. Is that kind of the vibe that Arkansas fans have now? Like maybe let's not focus on how we got there, but hey, we got there 4-1.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I said this a couple of weeks ago for Sam Pittman. We all know this. He's on the hot seat right now. We
Right.
know that. This is not a groundbreaking statement that I just made. Sam even talked about it at SEC Media Days. He's like, I know my seat's hot. I know it's blazing. Okay,
Right.
I know. So I think for going into the season, there were a couple of games I identified early on that I said, these are must wins for him, right? Auburn was one of them because I was like, I think they can beat this Auburn team. I really do. Even before the season started, I was like, I really do believe this is an Auburn team they can beat. And with kind of the issues and the history between those two teams, Sam needed a win over Hugh Freeze and that Auburn team. He did.
Right.
He got it. So great. However you got there, you got that. The other one I identified was Texas A&M. Because of the craziness of the rivalry, what has happened in AT&T Stadium, how they seem to just barely lose it all the time.
Right. Just finally, please come away with in the series with the win.
Exactly. So Sam needs to win that game as well because I believe, and I was looking back, he's 1-3 against the Aggies in his 10 years
I think so.
Arkansas. And so I was like, he needs to get another win there because, I mean, if you've only gotten one win over them, one win, that looks terrible. So you need to beat them as well. And that gives you some momentum going into Tennessee the next week. You host Tennessee at Razorback Stadium. Great that it's at Razorback Stadium. Does anybody think they're going to win that game? No. If they do, that's crazy. But they're a lot better than we all thought. But
Right.
Need some momentum. Because like you said, going 4-1 into that week would be huge for this Arkansas team, huge to build confidence, huge to go out and maybe give Tennessee a battle. I say that's like
anything can happen, man.
Maybe. I'm not saying I believe that, guys. I'm not saying before I get mean tweets coming out. Right?
Right.
Like, Courtney said this. No, I don't believe that, but I really do believe they need this win to get that confidence and get that ball rolling. Will they? That's kind of the question, right? Because we've identified, and we talked about this kind of off camera, about some of the things that Arkansas will need to do and some of the things Texas A&M will need to do. And you're right, they are in very similar situations heading into this game. I think you put two teams in there, no home field advantage, right? Neutral site game. Anything can happen. And that's why we've seen a crazy history of the rivalry. I guess rivalry, I say that, but crazy history of this game between these two teams in AT&T Stadium. So I think it'll be really, really interesting to see what happens this one. But you're exactly right. I think Arkansas needs to get a win here. I know Texas A&M fans feel the same way, though.
Right. Oh, I know. And you know what? I think it's a rivalry in the video game, so it counts. I think that's my threshold. And
I only say rivalry like this, Ben, because I know just Arkansas fans are very specific about their rivalries, right? And so Texas A&M, they like rank their rivalries, and Texas A&M is there, but it's not like their main rivals.
Right.
I mean, you literally have people saying, because Arkansas plays on rivalry week, Mizzou, and Mizzou fans believe Arkansas is a rivalry. Arkansas fans do not believe Mizzou is a rivalry. So,
I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah. It's super. Texas fans don't believe Arkansas is a rival, but Arkansas believes Texas is
I knew that one. They only think it's Oklahoma.
But it's like it's a weird cousin thing. Arkansas also, because the Battle of the Boot is with LSU, so that is technically a rivalry for Arkansas. But there are some people that don't believe it's a rivalry. So it's like I say rivalry because Arkansas feels like everybody's a rival with Arkansas. They just kind of claim rivalries except Mizzou. So
right. Yeah, no, I would definitely think, in my mind, I know they have beef with Texas, but then I think that the border states, like you said, Mizzou and LSU, that's where my mind goes. By the way, speaking of, that's kind of another parallel. You talk about the Tennessee game, A&M next week has Mizzou at home. So if you're going into that game 4-1, especially see Mizzou a little shaky, you start to all of a sudden talk yourself into like, here we go. We'll see what happens. So
Look,
I think
I love that it's like Mizzou where it's like little shaky, and Tennessee who's just been
I
firing.
know.
You're like, oh my gosh, this is a juggernaut, So
I know that's a little
I
unfortunate.
agree with that comparison, but I'd rather take Mizzou.
Totally. I mean, by the rankings, it's close, at least like the preseason. But yes, no, Tennessee looks like they're on one lately.
Yeah.
So let's break down this offense a little bit, and I guess two-part question. Obviously, Bobby Petrino coming back, that was interesting, especially with the dynamic of this matchup. What's been the noticeable, change with that? And then as far as Taylor Green goes, how do you feel like Hog fans are thinking of their quarterbacks so far through 4 games? And I also want to just include within that, like him coming in from Boise. I'm not sure exactly how people felt about it at the time, because you look at his numbers at Boise, like, again, the athletic tools were there. He's made some plays, but like it's not like he was a 2 or 3 year. Yeah, it's not like he was a 2 or 3 year like all conference performer with like 35 touchdowns a season, and he comes in as the guy. Like, I didn't know if people were like, we'll take him and we'll evaluate him, or people were just ready to get on board, say, okay, let's roll with Taylor Green.
Yeah, so I'll kind of answer quickly off of that point that you made there with Taylor Green. I'll go into to lead into my Bobby Petrino talk. So we're gonna wrap your 3-parter into kind of a 3-parter answer here. But I'll start with how Hog fans felt about him coming in. Well, honestly, you look at the kid, and I think, and if I'm not incorrect, I think he threw for like 11 touchdowns last year or something, but he had 9 interceptions as well. And that was what kind of scared me, honestly, about him coming into Arkansas. So I looked at that and I went, ooh, what's this going on? And then I looked at some of his tape and I was like, he's not a very great passer, and I was like, okay, but here's the crux to that. People were excited about it, not because they saw those stats and they went, well, you're right, Courtney. They went, well, you're right, Courtney, but he's under Bobby Petrino now. And Bobby Petrino picks his guy. And he handpicked Taylor Green. We've heard this story multiple times. Aggie fans may have not, but he literally, when Sam Pittman hired him on and said, we need a quarterback, KJ Jefferson is transferred to UCF, who we got, right? Who do you want to be your starter? And he said, there's this guy, Taylor Green, in the portal from Boise State. I know his stats don't jump off the page at you, but he's good. He's athletic. I can make him what we need him to be. And so Sam was like, all right, that's great. You got your guy.
Right.
Get it. Right. And
Say less.
So Sam Pittman trusted Bobby Petrino and saying, you are the quarterback's coach. Who do you want? And Bobby said, I want him. I think I can make him into a Matt Jones type. Right. Okay. And so Sam was like, okay, all right. I believe you. I believe you. Go out there and get him. Right. So anyway, so that's the answer to there. Hog fans felt good about it because Bobby, they trust in Bobby, right? That was we trust in Bobby. So we went out and we're getting a guy that we inherently trust. So they just kind of trusted in Bobby, which meant they felt good about Taylor Green coming in. Now you talk about Bobby. Okay, well, how did that start? How was that? Was there any friction there? Was it weird? Well, when we first heard that, Sam Pittman was hiring Bobby Petrino, we said, there's no way that can happen. Based on, if you know the story about, the motorcycle and hiring on your mistress and all of these things that were not good and eventually led to Bobby Petrino's firing at the University of Arkansas. There was things in the bylaws of Arkansas that basically said, and these are university rules, that you cannot be hired on if you got fired for cause, and one of these causes being, what he got fired for.
Right.
So he was fired for cause, and so they were like, can we rehire him? Well, basically they had to get everybody's signature, and sorry, my cat is here, but and they basically had to get the signature of everyone on the board and the president, and basically get everyone to sign off on like, hey, we're going to go against our laws here, but we're going to do it because this is the guy Sam wants, right? And after the Dan Enos fiasco, which, by the way, Aggie fans, Dan Enos is over at the University of Florida as an offensive analyst or whatever he's doing.
Right.
Let's just say
Allegedly.
allegedly, yeah, he's over there. He's listed on their website, So and you see what's going on there right now. So don't hire Dan Enos. Let's just get him on the box and say, Texas A&M fans, if he's available, do not hire him. You do not want him. But Mike Elko is smarter than that. He graduated from an Ivy League, right?
Yeah.
So he's smarter than that. Anyways, back to what we're talking about, Sam Pittman, Bobby Petrino, is that Sam Pittman said, okay, can we hire this guy? They signed off on it. And their condition was, and I'm going to say this very loud and clear, their condition was he would not be the head coach or have any head coaching duties. He is under Sam Pittman. He is under a head coach. So he does not have any head coaching responsibilities or duties, right? So he cannot hire his mistress, right? He cannot do anything bad. That was their condition. So everybody going out there on the interwebs and saying, hey, when Sam Pittman gets fired, they have their coach in waiting. No, they don't.
Right.
No, they don't, guys, because one of the conditions of them hiring Bobby Petrino was that he wasn't going to be the head coach. So everybody out there saying that, I want to point that out to everybody, because everybody likes to go with this rumor that Bobby Petrino is going to take over if Sam Pittman gets fired. That's not going to be the case. So I doubt that's going to happen. Anyways, everyone was cool with it. Everyone was a happy family. Sam hires on Bobby. Everybody's great. Hunter Yurchek is a happy camper because the fan base is re-energized. Everything is going well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he goes out and gets Taylon Green. Well, now Taylon Green through 4 games, what is our assessment of him? Well, I think he's hella athletic. Let's just say that. He get out of situations. If a play breaks down, you got to be aware of his feet because he can make something happen with his legs. We've seen that happen multiple times this season, and he is quick thinking when it comes to that. So he gets out of situations and can make a first down happen. That's what the Aggies hopefully are preparing for. But how can you really prepare for a guy that you just don't know what's going to happen with him, right? You have no kind of idea what he's thinking in the moment. That's what every defense has said about him so far, is that he's just a playmaker, and you really can't prepare for just a guy taking over like Superman when a play breaks down and making something happen. You can't. So I'll say that. Where I think he struggles, and this is no surprise to anybody, if you watch his games, and I went back and I watched the tape, his passing ability. And we've said that. We've said that he needs to get better. And part of that, and Sam Pittman said, is the protections, right? They need to do a better job of protecting the quarterback. And that's not all on the offensive line, guys. Sam Pittman is an offensive line coach. He's an offensive line genius. That's not all on the offensive line. I've watched several plays where Jaquindon Jackson, while he is great in the run game, while he is great when he gets that ball handed off to him, when it comes to pass blocking, he has no idea what he's doing sometimes, guys. I'm like, what do you do? Taylon Green is literally saying to him before a play, you can watch him go, that's your guy. That's your, and he'll stand there like he doesn't know who he's supposed to be blocking.
And he's not like the biggest guy in the world, like frame-wise.
He's not, he's
strong. Yeah,
he's strong, but he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he still needs to do his part in the pass blocking game.
Right.
What Sam Pittman is saying in the underline there of like, we need to do a better job protecting the quarterback. Part of that is getting everybody else involved in the pass blocking game, not just your offensive line, your tight ends, your running backs that aren't being utilized. Like Jaquindon Jackson needs to block for him. So anyways, get off that soapbox. The other part of it is Taylon Green. He needs to take some responsibility when what he has in the passing game. There's a reason he threw interceptions last year, right? Part of that is because he didn't realize that he is a 6'6", 6'7" guy. They list him as 6'6". He's more 6'7", guys. Let's just say that. He's a 6'7" quarterback. He is tall. He didn't realize his height. He didn't. When he came in with Bobby Petrino, that was the first thing he said. Taylon Green does not realize how tall he is. Utilize that. See the field.
Right.
You can see the entire, you can see over everybody. Use it. Use it. You are 6'7", bro. Use that height. And so part of it was he wasn't throwing and utilizing that height. He was kind of like, oh, I'll underthrow. No, you can throw to your guys. You can throw to them. You can throw high. they'll get up and grab it. Well, now he's throwing too high, right? There's
Right.
some where he'll throw over his receivers, and you're like,
Right.
oh,
Like, really a little bit.
We gotta find a happy medium here, Taylor. The other thing he does is he locks in, and I know defenses are seeing this. If you watch the plays, don't take don't take me for granted on it. Go watch the tape. I'm sure the Aggies have. He stares down one receiver, whoever the play is designed for. Let's say it's Andrew Armstrong. Let's say it's Luke Haas, their tight end. Whoever it's designed for, you'll see him lock down on that guy. And he won't look at anybody else. He locks in on that guy that he's supposed to throw to. If that guy is in coverage, if that guy has, he can't throw to him, then you'll see him use his feet. And you're like, whoa, Taylor. Whoa.
Easy.
You had Isaiah Satania open over here, and he's waving at you. He's wide open.
Hello.
In on the guy you're supposed to throw to. That is another thing I'd like him to see him get better at. That's where he throws interceptions. That's where he does. He also, and I hate to say this, he was at Boise State, right?
Right.
Not the SEC. Texas A&M fans can tell you that. Arkansas fans can tell you that. Go ask any team in the SEC. It ain't the SEC. And Taylor Green knows that.
Right.
He walked into Arkansas basically saying, I'm going to take the weight of this team on myself. And everyone was like, no, you don't. You have playmakers. You don't have to take the weight of the team all on you. He wants to be the quarterback for Arkansas. He loves Arkansas. He cares about these people here. He loves the team. I mean, this week he almost had me in tears, shouting out the offensive line and how much he appreciates those guys. Almost had me in tears.
Right. Oh, I saw your tweet on that. I saw that.
This is what Arkansas needed, right? Instead of KJ Jefferson, I'm not going to try and call him out here, but instead of KJ Jefferson walking around with Louis Vuitton bags and the offensive line going, man, we wish we got some love from you every week, but you just don't care about us.
Right.
There was some animosity there. There was.
Right.
And so I'm glad KJ's in a better situation, but I'm glad they have a guy like Taylor. The problem is he puts so much weight on himself. Jaquindon Jackson has said it 3 times in a press conference. He gets jittery. He's like, oh, I'm nervous. I don't know what I'm doing. And he does this. He gets jittery. He gets stressed. And Jaquindon's like, dude, just play the game of football. And Jaquindon was a quarterback, so he knows. Right. Exactly what he's going through. He knows what he's dealing with. He actually played against Taylor Green in AT&T Stadium when they were in high school. Jaquindon's team won, so they won't talk about that.
Yeah. Duncanville's pretty good.
Exactly. But he needs to calm down. That's the biggest thing. Calm down. Understand that you are talented enough to be an SEC quarterback. He is. He can do this. That's the first thing. Next thing is working on his passing game, because there ain't nothing wrong with him running. There ain't nothing wrong with that. You keep running if you want to, Taylor. But we got to make sure that you understand how to go through the process of when that ball is snapped, right? You've got to not lock in on one receiver. You've got to see the field. You're 6'7", bro. See the field, right? You can look. Make sure you and quickly. It has to be quick, right? It has to be. And they need to do a good job in pass protection for him, right? They need to do a really great job in pass blocking and protecting him and making sure that he has enough time to do that. And so there's a lot of things, right, that has to go right for him to be able to do these things. The other thing is he better not be doing kung fu flips and kicks and kicking a guy in the throat. I need him to protect himself.
Right.
The other thing is like, man, Taylor, don't be trying to be Superman out here, okay?
I know you're tall, but let's be careful.
Let's be careful here. So I know that was a long rant there about what Green to do, but basically, if he hasn't gotten these things fixed, this is something that Texas A&M's defense can capitalize on. And I'm sure, y'all got some dudes on your defense. Let's be honest. Y'all got some dudes.
Right.
And sure if they've watched the tape, and I know they have, because Mike Elko is a guy that makes sure he has everything checked. That's what you get from an Ivy League coach, right?
Right.
You get all those things checked, and so I know they've watched the film and they've identified that. Will Taylor fix that by this game? I don't know. We don't get to see. I don't know, but I'm just going to say that's something that they can capitalize on. So
right. I think that's another thing too with like the passing ability. I think for me, it's like since we see Taylor Green hit like the deep connections in the ball, like he can hit the long ball, you just assume like, well, if you can do that, surely you can, figure out a way to hit the intermediate stuff and the short game stuff. Like
But
you've done the hard part. You've done the hard part.
but that's the thing. We don't
I
need
know.
and throws Taylor. He thinks he needs to make a play every time. Sometimes it's all about dinking and dunking, right?
Right.
I mean,
Like it's okay. Yeah.
nothing wrong with a short pass. There's nothing wrong with that, guys. I don't know why we're trying to be Superman every
Right.
play.
Nothing wrong with a 7-yard gain on 1st and 10. That's fine. 2nd and 3.
That Taylor, I'm okay with that. It's okay.
Right.
It's okay. Hand off to Jaquindon Jackson. I'm sure that if you can get the run game going, you're gonna be okay.
Right.
My thing, like, if you get stressed out, you're in this environment where Jaquindon says Taylor gets jittery. I don't want to see him getting jittery. That's when the defense is going to capitalize, and they're either going to capitalize with getting a lot of pressure on him, maybe a sack. I don't know, or he's going to throw an interception.
Right. Yeah, we'll see that. Like we said, big momentum swings, I think, weigh heavily in this game, in this atmosphere. So what as an Arkansas, viewer, what I don't want to say concerns you, but when you look at Texas A&M, what are things that you look at and you say, because I think for A&M, one of the things is you look at Taylor Green's athletic ability and his versatility. You say, okay, they struggle with Riley Leonard. Well, for you, when you look at A&M in this matchup, what are some things that jump out to you as like, ooh, they better make sure they get this right, or this might be an area where if the Hogs aren't on their game, it could be a long day?
I think the defense. I think you guys we just talked about that. I wonder how Arkansas is going to go up against Texas A&M's defense. I like how Arkansas's defense is playing right now, and I know the offense is kind of there's some question marks there for A&M right now. They have a great run game. You guys have some great guys in the backfield there. So I know that they're going to be trying to stop the run. If Arkansas effectively stops the run, what's going to happen there? That's my question as well, because Arkansas, they've been very effective at stopping the run. They've stopped great backs like Jerquez Hunter and Ollie Gordon.
Right.
They've been able to contain big playmakers there in the run game, but what happens there? That's a question mark for me. I know it is for A&M fans.
Yeah. Well, it's like strength. It's strength on strength, right? Like, if that, I think that's basically how it's going to play out on offense. Is that both teams are going to have to. Well, A&M's dictating it, so A&M's going to have to be like, look, we were, I think, top 10 in the country in terms of rush yards per game. I know Arkansas's good, but we'll just try to break them down and take our chances.
See what they can do. See what they can get early on. And another weakness of Arkansas that I'll bring up really quick, just because we're talking about it, is the defensive line has been a question mark this whole year for Arkansas. And the reason is, you going into the season, we thought the defensive line was going to be the biggest strength of the defense. We saw all the dudes there. We were like, oh my gosh, the amount of experience they return on that defensive line is huge. The guys they brought in are great. Landon Jackson came back. They were like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the best defense, right? And so we haven't seen now. I think they did a great job last week of putting pressure on the quarterback, because now, while the number of sacks doesn't show it, sometimes you're not always trying to get sacks, right? You're just trying to put pressure on. So, and QB hurries and things like that. They were putting the pressure on. But in the first 3 games, UAB, I was really upset with them, because I was like, this is going to be a sack party. ULM got 5 sacks, I believe, on UAB's quarterback, Jacob Zeno. And I was like, this is going to be a sack party for Arkansas. They're going to have so much. Well, they didn't. And so we were kind of like, what's going on?
What's going on here? Yeah.
3 games now. We haven't seen a lot of pressure there from the defensive line. So that's something I want to see. Maybe A&M can capitalize on that, right? Maybe A&M can see the weaknesses there and capitalize on it. We'll see. Has Arkansas gotten better there? We'll see, because they did a better job against Auburn. We just want to see a lot more pressure, right? And I think that's going to be huge in this game, is pressuring whoever you've got at quarterback, right?
I was going to say, you're a big Marcel Reed advocate.
I am. I'm a huge Marcel Reed advocate. I think that guy. Well, and the reason being is because I feel like A&M fans feel me on this. you guys haven't seen the Connor Wegman that you wanted to see, right? You guys haven't seen the
Correct.
guy thinking going into the season was going to be, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be awesome at QB. And I just feel like he's fallen short. Not that he's bad in any sense of the word, but
Right.
fallen short of some expectations there.
I think it's the system. Like he's not this
Yeah.
system. Like in Bobby Petrino's offense, he's really good, and he's still maybe if he's playing at his best, might be your best option. Like his best versus Marcel's best, maybe. But I think Marcel's game within this scheme is just a more natural fit.
Well, he's kind of like Taylor Green, right? When you look at Marcel Reed, you kind of see a lot of comparisons to a guy who can make plays happen and have this athletic ability to do so with. So I am a huge advocate in just trying him out. What if you make Arkansas prepare for two quarterbacks? Utilize them, right? Utilize both of them. If Wegman's not getting it done, utilize Marcel Reed. That's what I think. You utilize both of them. If I'm Texas A&M, that would be what I would do. But I am a huge Marcel Reed fan. So whoever you're preparing for, you better get pressure on him, right? You better get pressure on him. And the same way you beat Auburn, get to make the quarterback beat you. That's Travis Williams' philosophy in these SEC games. Make that quarterback beat you. Can you do that? We'll see. We'll see what happens. And stopping Texas A&M's run for sure, because that is going to be a key emphasis. I feel like they can do a good job at that, just based on top running backs in the SEC that they've shut down. So that's going back a little bit to Texas A&M's defense. I just wonder how Arkansas's offense is going to handle that. Like I said before, you have some very talented guys on y'all's defense, and so I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's one place that Texas A&M does feel pretty good about is their defense right now.
Yeah, especially that D-line on their side.
Exactly. And I was just about to say that their D-line is getting a lot of pressure right now, is making it work. And I feel like that's something Taylor Green's going to have to deal with, basically if the pass protection is not there, plays are going to break down. And that's something that Arkansas, I just identified they struggle with. And if Texas A&M is going to capitalize on that, that's going to make me real nervous. It's going to make me real nervous because y'all are going to have the upper hand there. Y'all are going to have it, really and truly. If they have not gotten that part figured out, I worry. And again, I wish I could tell you I know that they have, but we don't get to see practice this year. So that's kind of a crazy thing for us. Practices were closed off for the whole year. That's new for probably because of Sam Pittman. We'll see.
Right. Maybe Bob Petrino stay outside.
Stay outside. I don't want you to know what's going on here. I know they have some fun things up their sleeve. We haven't seen some of the fun plays up his sleeve just yet, Bobby Petrino, but I believe that's why we're being left out of practice. Right. But those are the things. The defensive line for Texas A&M is something that Arkansas really has to be prepared for, genuinely. And even when I was playing with them in college football 25, I was like, man, they get to the QB so fast. They do. I mean, I think I got sacked with Taylor Green. I was playing as Arkansas the other day. I think I got sacked 6 times. They get to the it's accurate. It gets to the quarterback so fast.
It's weird with how good the D line is. They've actually struggled pretty decently with the run game and defending the run, and Jaquindon Jackson and those guys, no slouches in that regard. So it's a weird thing where I feel like eventually you guys say, like, and I'm sure they're going through this, where it's like, guys, like, we have the strength up front. We can clearly win in the trenches. We can't just win in terms of quarterback pressures. We've got to also parlay that into slowing down the run game. And if we could do that, then we're good. But it's been a little bit, you get one or the other.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of read options, right? Because they're going to have to be prepared for that, right? I can hand it off. If I'm Taylor Green, I can hand it off to Jaquindon Jackson, or I can take it myself and see what the defense is giving me. So I think that's another place I'd like to see what Texas A&M does, because Arkansas is going to have options. They are. Bobby Petrino knows how to call a game. I have not critiqued the play calling besides one time this season when there was a silly little thing they did against Oklahoma State. But it's fine. It's fine. We're not going to talk about that because that's past, and they know that they messed up there. They are now playing Braylon Russell a lot more, our freshman running back, who is a tank. He is a tank. He's a freshman, but he looks like a super senior because he is so big. You'll see him in this game as well. But again, I just think that that's something Arkansas and Texas A&M, that will be a key kind of like, you talk about matchups, right? You talk about what's going to happen. I'm excited to see what the D-line for Texas A&M does against Arkansas and how Arkansas adjusts for that. How Arkansas, if they force Taylor Green to make more, to beat them through the air, I don't know if that's going to happen.
I feel like if you do that, you got to make them like, give them just like quick, like, it's not even a decision. It's just like, get the ball out real quick. You're throwing over to here.
Yeah. Bring the pressure, get the ball out quick. And if they can also place an emphasis, like you said, they haven't been so great at stopping the run, but if they place an emphasis on like, okay, we got to stop Jaquindon Jackson, right? We cannot let him find a hole, right? And that's going to be on Arkansas a little bit too. How is that offensive line going to do? How is the blocking, the run blocking as well? I know passing has been a point of emphasis, but run blocking as well. So can they give Jaquindon Jackson holes? We'll see. This is all things that we're like,
I know.
No, we're going to talk about these things.
I know. And we'll know all these answers in like 28 hours or something. We'll figure it all out. It is weird. I do think, we've talked about it a little bit. I won't rehash the whole thing. I do think we'll probably see Marcel Reed in at quarterback. I just get the sense it's almost one of these where, like, in a perfect world, maybe Connor Wigman, based off what he's done in the past. Here's my case for Connor Wigman, or not case for, but like case against giving up on him more than I think some people have. Is like
giving up on him.
You play Notre Dame, good run defense. He's hurt in that game, late in the game, and then the next game against McNeese, he's got a bad shoulder, and he still is like 11 for 14, 121. So we're not throwing the ball down the field, but 2 touchdowns, takes care of the ball. So really, we've got to see him for like 3/4 of a game, fully healthy against a really good defense. And then I know Marcel came in against Florida and looked good, but he was not as good as Connor in that McNeese game. And then Bowling Green, like, there were still some issues. If he came in and was just setting the world on fire, and you're like, okay, into discussion. So, this is not. And my thing is like to say the Oklahoma situation. Like Jackson Arnold had multiple games to figure it out, and he didn't have like this 8-game stretch where he started with 16 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, unlike Connor Wigman. So it's like he had a small sample size.
Yeah. And I think the other thing you look at, that's why I say you utilize both, right?
Right.
I'm a Reed fan, but I also understand where he needs to be more consistent, right? Like you said, he needs to be more consistent. And so once they see that consistency from him,
oh, for sure,
might win the job, right? But for right now, you're right. You can't bench Connor just yet, because you've seen some flashes from this guy. I do like, just because I say I'm a fan of him.
Oh, no, I got you. Yeah.
Only means because I'm like, I see a lot of talent in this guy. And I think, oh my gosh, he stays at A&M and gets developed. You guys have a serious guy on your, in the future. But do you give him some reps? I do. I really think you can play him in certain situations and give him those reps. They want to see that consistency. I get that. I get what Mike Elko is saying, that he wants to see that from him. I think he even said that in the press conference this week, right?
So. Yeah.
Like, played more consistency. And I understand that. I just also think you've got to give this guy reps, because you can't completely bench Connor for him, but you can at least utilize 2 quarterbacks. I mean, make it harder for teams to prepare for you utilizing 2 quarterbacks. That's all. I think you have a talent there, so utilize them.
Yeah, and here's what I would say too, as far as the like life's not fair type of dynamic. Like, it could be in a perfect world, if they're both 100% healthy, you use the 2 quarterbacks, or you give Connor like his fair shake. But if Connor's coming back from injury and he's not 100%, and it's going to take a while for him to get 100%, and Marcel, at least from that standpoint, is healthy, it might be one of those where it's like, if the roles were reversed and Marcel looked the way he does and Connor came in and maybe he catches fire for a little bit, but it's a little inconsistent. But, in this alternate world, Marcel's working his way back from an injury. Be like, look, we've got a good thing going. We can't, we're not going to, at least starting the game, we're not going to totally mix it up because you're still, just health alone, you're still somewhat of an unknown. I talk about giving Connor a chance in the understanding that if and whenever he's 100% healthy, but maybe by the time he's 100% healthy, Marcel's already in enough of a rhythm. And, if you win this game with Arkansas, I think if they win this game with Arkansas, he's probably your guy moving forward for the rest of the year, unless it's just an ugly game and the offense is still a little shaky, then maybe it's a little unclear. But I think this is like his chance to really say, okay, not that we gave up on Connor, but if you come in, we're going to go with you. If you keep things on the tracks and you look good, the offense has some explosive plays, then okay, we're ready for it. And then Connor, we know that we have a good option if things go sideways later.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with that take right there. And I honestly think that is maybe what they're looking at too. Honestly, if they put him in, things go really, really well. I think Connor, sorry, so sad, too bad. I mean,
it's just the timing of how things played out. It's not even,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're going to get beat. I mean, I hate to say that. We shouldn't have this so sad, too bad. It's like if Talon keeps throwing interceptions, if he looks bad for a few more weeks, like he has a terrible game against A&M, a terrible game against Tennessee, I wouldn't be surprised if they put in their backup Malachi Singleton, right? Mm-hmm. We saw some really great things from him during fall camp. He can throw the ball. He is really accurate. So does he have Talon Green's athletic ability on his feet? He can run a little bit. He's slower. So that's you give up that. But I think, you can't be sad for Talon Green if he's not looking good and you give somebody else an opportunity. I just, again, maybe I'm just, that's harsh. And that's like coach's daughter speak right there. But my coach's daughter speak, like my dad would be like, all right, you aren't doing it. Bench him,
Right. Yeah. I think too, like my thing with oh, I know. And my thing with Connor too is like initially we didn't know how long he was game that decision for Florida. So it was like, if he was your guy and the Florida game was good, but he was ready to go against Bowling Green, then I think the longer this drags out, the harder it is to go back. Like I think it's easier to say, okay, Marcel, we needed you to be ready to go for this game. You were, but okay, now let's go back and figure out what things were with Connor. But if it's okay, Florida, now Bowling Green, now Arkansas seems to be in doubt, and I think since you are winning games, if it's in doubt, you probably lean toward at least starting with Marcel. And then the longer it goes on, I think you just start to get into a rhythm and you got to figure out what you have there with Marcel. Because, with him being a younger guy, that would probably be that is the better case scenario, is that you got to reset the clock eligibility wise, go back a year, and you're right back where you were hoping you'd be with Connor, if not maybe a little further, and he's younger. So there you go.
And the other thing too is you've got to decide who your guy is to show the offense that you believe in something, that you have a guy, right? Okay, whether it's Marcel, whether it's Connor, whatever, you've got to show your offense that you believe in someone moving forward. And while we go into every week where it's like, we don't know.
Yeah, that's not a great spot to be in.
Decide a starter. Don't mean that you can't use Marcel. Don't mean that you can't use Connor, but decide a starter, because I think you look at what Auburn's dealing with right now, right?
Yeah, you don't want to go full Auburn.
You don't want to go full Auburn where you completely bench, your starter and Peyton, and then you go with Hank Brown, that freshman, and then he absolutely collapses, and then you go back to Peyton, but Peyton has this kind of like, well, you didn't believe me, and I got
right.
He has this weird animosity now. It just feels weird.
I know.
You don't want to completely go that route. And I don't think, honestly, I hate to say it, but I think Coach Elko is a lot smarter than you.
I think a lot of Aggie fans would get on board with that. He's saying that. Yeah, okay. That's my only concern about totally going. Like if you go, okay, Connor was a little shaky, got hurt. Marcel, okay, looking okay, but then if he gets okay, then if maybe Arkansas forces him into some mistakes, and you say, okay, let's try Connor again, then Connor's a little rust. That's the only thing that scared me. But again, if Connor's been hurt for however many weeks, then it's not like you've given him that rust by your coach's decision. It's just been he's
Yeah.
not ready to go. So then I'm more okay with it. I'll get you out on this. We've kept you a little bit past the time I asked you to, but well, I don't know if you have like official predictions. Like if you do, great. If not, it's whatever. But like I guess in general, like how do you kind of expect this game to play out? Again, not necessarily if you have a lean on a side, but just in terms of what type of game you think we're going to see on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one thing and one thing only. It's going to be weird. Okay. Something weird always happens. And if it doesn't, then wow, this series at AT&T Stadium went out on a weird note because it should be weird, right? If it's not weird, then something's in the water or something. But I think you're always going to see something strange happen in this, whether it goes on Arkansas side or Texas A&M side. I don't know, but something weird always happens. So I'm going to predict something weird happening. I'm going to predict it being close because it always seems to be a back and forth battle. So I think I've always predicted it to be close the day before or the week before, whatever it is. And so I said, I think on our show, 31-28 was going to be the final score. I also said Arkansas was going to win. I can't really go against the Hogs right now. I'm so sorry. I know some of our team members
We'll forgive you.
Yeah, sorry. I know some of our teammates picked Texas A&M to win. So don't freak out on us, Aggies. We're not totally biased towards the Hogs. There are some team members that picked A&M. The reason I think the Hogs will win, and this is how I feel. The reason I think the Hogs will win is because they know they need this win. They know they need this win. They know they want to go into that Tennessee game feeling good about themselves. They know the rivalry. I'm going to call it a rivalry. Hog fans, don't come for me. Texas A&M fans, don't come for me. They know the rivalry is always weird. They know things always happen. They want to go out in AT&T Stadium on a bang. And so I really think it's that like last little push when you look at two teams that are very similar, right? Very similar teams, very similar situations. Neutral site game, right? There's nothing that I can say really puts the one over the other right now, except an attitude and a feeling behind this game. And I know Texas A&M fans would say, well, our guys feel that too. Our guys feel that. Well, you've always had it go your way in this series. So I think Arkansas knows that. I think the players know that. And I think they're ready to come out and show A&M fans that they can win a game in this series.
Right.
And Sam Pittman can have a better record than 1-4 against the Aggies if they lose. So
right, yeah, they've been a little tough luck going their way. Yeah, it should be like better. As they say in soccer, like the run of play. The run of play should be better than Arkansas being 1-4 in these games because it's been some wild times as always. Yeah, I think too the other thing, just like both teams, quote unquote, for this season really need this win the same. But I think what you touched on at the very beginning with Sam Pittman, like the urgency of the season for Sam Pittman given his situation, whereas Texas A&M, it's like that would be ideal best case scenario as you come in and Mike Elko takes the SEC by storm, goes 9-3, 10-2, maybe flirts with the playoff spot. But you have some runway there if it doesn't work out. Whereas for Arkansas, like there's not much runway for 6-6 and maybe even 7-5 anymore. So I do agree. It's in that sense of like, hey, for the future of this group, it's almost a must win as opposed to A&M. It's like it would be really nice to win. Sort of
Yes. And I hate saying that because obviously every game is a must win, right? Every game is a must win for every program. But you look at games and you weight games, right? And this was one I circled before the season started. I didn't care what the A&M was ranked, right? I didn't care what they looked like going into this season. I circled this one. I said, he really needs to win this game. He really needs to beat Auburn. I don't think he really needs to beat Tennessee. They don't have any real history with Tennessee, right? And like, yes, Tennessee is very good, so nobody expects them to win. If they get a win, great, right? But nobody expects them to win. Then you go into the bye week, though, feeling really good about yourselves, right? You feel really, really good about yourselves. You only have 2 losses on the year, and one of the losses could have gone your way in a road atmosphere that was very crazy in Stillwater. Could have gone your way, didn't. But it was early on this season. You were still figuring things out. The other one was to a really good Tennessee team. I think that's a really good situation for Arkansas to be in. and to poise for bowl eligibility, which is a lot of people didn't think that was going to happen. Vegas had Arkansas not even winning 4 games this year.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize
Yeah.
they were that down.
Yeah. The over-under was, I think, 4 games. Do you think they're going to win 4 games or more than 4 games? Like, so
Leo says, I do think they're going to win 4 games.
He is very upset. I even mentioned that. He's very upset. Leo.
Don't mention the doubters.
I'm sorry. I'm
No, you're fine. You're fine. No, I agree. I think I would lean slightly A&M only because I think the team that turns the ball over less, protects the ball, will win this game. I think A&M has shown a propensity to protect the ball for the most part. Arkansas give it away a little bit, although we'll see. I think this will be in some ways, aside from the secondary of Notre Dame, that unit specifically, this might be one of the better defenses, especially in terms of, like we said, taking away their strength that they lean on. That's something that I don't know how A&M is going to be able to handle that.
We'll see. And again, we love doing the hypotheticals, and I know fans love that, but it's a really we'll see, because genuinely you could throw out everything we said in this podcast because oh my goodness.
Throw it out. No, you're fine. This would be what we call live television, folks.
This is live television.
If we were on the air.
Live television. He can't be good for 5 seconds. You want to say hi to that?
Oh my goodness. I thought that was going to be like a big dog.
No, he's a tiny dog.
Like
he's
a
tiny
yellow lab or something.
It's a mid-cold doodle, guys. And do you have a prediction for us? Oh, okay. Says this.
I sense hostility towards Aggies.
Yeah, he doesn't. He really doesn't.
He doesn't
like Aggie fans.
Right.
Says they're weird. Says they have weird traditions.
Right. Oh, man.
But seriously, you could throw out everything we said in this podcast. Why? Because this series is always weird. Weird things happen in AT&T Stadium. It's a weird juju. And genuinely, every time I think it's going to go one way, I'm like, oh, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. It never goes that way. No. So I hate making predictions on it. I hate talking about it because you could throw out everything.
Right.
And weird things could happen. I know you don't like me saying that, buddy, but it's going to happen. Okay. Weird things always happen, right?
I agree.
Weird things always happen.
Awesome.
I don't know. Ben, he is very acting up right now, so I might have to go.
He's ready for game day. He's like, enough talking. Let's go.
He's like, can you stop talking for 5 seconds, please?
Let's get on the field.
I'm trying to tell you that Arkansas is going to win, and you can stop talking about it. Okay.
It's end of discussion. Well, Courtney, listen, had so much fun doing this. Had so much fun catching up as always. You got to catch up a little bit SEC Media Days, and glad we got to do it here.
Yeah, I love talking college sports with you. Sorry, I'm making my dog not look at the window now.
Good.
Love talking college sports with you. Love talking Aggies, Arkansas. Hey, maybe we'll get to do it again during basketball season or baseball season.
Could. I think those will be pretty good series. I think both ways. So
I think so as well. Y'all got some guys. Y'all got some guys over there.
For sure. It should be top 15 for basketball, I would think, and then baseball is always going to be great. All right.
Well, yeah.
She is Courtney Mims with Pig Trail Nation at Mims Courtney on X. Is that your Instagram, or do you?
Yeah, that's not my Instagram. I'm just really on X, honestly.
Just on X. Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah. No, it's not my Instagram, but I don't put anything work related on my Instagram. You're welcome to follow me there, Courtney Mims.
Right. There we go.
But yeah, I just do X for work. So at Mims Courtney is where you can follow me, ask me questions, make fun of Arkansas people. I don't know, whatever you want. I can chat.
There we go. She's accessible, folks. Well, thank you so much, and see how this plays out on Saturday.
Yeah, I'll see you this weekend.
All right. Thank you so much.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.